What happens when philosophy meets pure ecstasy? What happens when the supreme connoisseur of love discovers that someone else relishes more love than himself? Then we're introduced to Sri Chaitanya, the mystic who transformed India with bhakti and sacred chant. Let's explore his luminous life. Born in Bengal in 1986, Chaitanya was an ecstatic mystic and bhakti saint who galvanized the bhakti school, formerly known as Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which is the tradition I was initiated into. Gaudiyas understand Sri Chaitanya to be a divine descent of Krishna who came to earth to show the way of pure bhakti to the world. Through rigorous philosophy, emotive kirtan and tears, and personal example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered a rare glimpse into love's highest potential. And by hearing about his life, we're shown a practical example of how to practice bhakti and achieve its lofty goal. Mahaprabhu initiated a spiritual tsunami of passionate love of the sweet absolute that spread throughout the Indian subcontinent in the 16th century. Unlike other reformers who relied on social or intellectual change, Chaitanya transformed others through ecstatic devotion, breaking barriers of caste, gender, and creed. His path of devotion is not a sentimental one. It is thoroughly grounded in reason, Vedanta philosophy, theology, and a requisite practice and spiritual discipline. He showed that Bhakti's path of divine love follows two tracks. One is based on reason and philosophy, and the other is heartfelt, full of genuine, pure spiritual emotion. The two tracks demonstrate that to achieve divine love, the head and heart are to be harmonized. Spiritual emotion is grounded in truth, not imagined projections. Both mind and heart are guided by Bhakti's sacred texts such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is also known as the Bhagavat Purana. Chaitanya was a prominent scholar, but engaged in Kirtan, which was considered inappropriate for a renunciate. For years, Sri Chaitanya traveled India on foot to teach bhakti and spread the joy of Kirtan. And when he arrived in Varanasi, which is also known as Benares, which is still the intellectual seat of non-dual philosophy, he created quite a commotion. This young mendicant was not behaving according to Vedic codes, or so the sannyasis there thought. He was emotional, not sober. He was always engaged in kirtan instead of the study of Vedanta, which the Advaitin sannyasis felt was the only way to approach the divine. Prakashanandi was the scholar sannyasi of thousands of non-dualists, and he initially criticized Sri Chaitanya, referring to him as an emotional pretender. A meeting was arranged, and on the request of Prakashananda, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke on Vedanta. When it was over, standing in front of a large gathering of his followers, Prakashananda Saraswati said, "You have explained the codes of Vedanta Sutras and the Upanishads as they are and enlightened even me. Please further explain the sutras so that we may all be benefited." After this encounter, Prakashananda and his followers took to Mahaprabhu's Bhaktivedanta teachings. And a similar incident occurred in the town of Puri, about 500 miles away. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was known throughout India as the greatest logician of his time. He had established his own school, and he was also the learned minister of philosophy in King Prataparudra's court at Puri. He regularly schooled the most advanced renunciates, and when he first met Sri Chaitanya, who had taken the renounced order at the tender age of 24, Sarvabhauma felt he needed to strengthen Mahaprabhu's mind with philosophy so that he could maintain his renunciation throughout life. After all, Sri Chaitanya was an effulgent, handsome young man, so Sarvabhauma invited him over to teach him. After a week of study, Sarvabhauma asked Chaitanya if he had any questions. In reply, Mahaprabhu said that Sarvabhauma's teachings on Vedanta were questionable. At first, Sarvabhauma balked because he's had advanced learning and reputation. But on being asked by Sarvabhauma, Chaitanya taught him bhakti metaphysics based on Upanishads, Vedanta Sutras, and the Puranas, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. Sarvabhauma was stunned by Chaitanya's erudition and couldn't defeat his explanations, so he became the student of Mahaprabhu and took to Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Following his lead, most of the state and the king also took to bhakti. Throughout Sri Chaitanya's travels, he entered into discussions and debates with the greatest philosophers, logicians, and theologians of his day. He became known as a remarkable scholar, ranked among India's giants such as Patanjali, Kapila, Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhva. Sri Chaitanya described Vedanta as a tree of sacred texts, and on that magnificent tree grows the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Vedanta's ripened fruit. And he said that Bhagavatam was ready to fall into our hands or to anyone seeking spiritual knowledge. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas consider Srimad Bhagavatam a primary text. Now, though his teachings are grounded in unmatched Vedanta philosophy, he gave more than just theoretical knowledge. He showed that love of the personal sweet absolute, not academic scholarship about the impersonal feature, is the summit of transcendence, because the ecstasy of divine love is greater than the ecstasy of merging into impersonal Brahman. Sri Chaitanya demonstrated that the core practice of bhakti is the chanting of the Maha-Mantra, which is found in the Upanishads. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Have you heard of this mantra before? Did you hear it at a kirtan or somewhere else? Let me know in the comments below. If you don't know what kirtan is, I'll be doing an episode on that soon. But as a quick definition, kirtan is a call and response sacred chant that is part of a bhakti practice. In sonic spirituality, Stephen Rosen refers to Chaitanya as the, quote, father of sacred chant as a yogic science. In other words, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the father of kirtan, which has become a popular practice in the yoga communities around the world. The kirtan of Sri Chaitanya is known as Prema Kirtan because it's the kirtan that takes us to divine love, and not all kirtans offer this goal. Mahaprabhu took the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha-Mantra Kirtan to the streets, and thousands danced behind him and sang along. 400 years before Gandhi, Sri Chaitanya led the largest nonviolent civil disobedience movement. The Brahmanas of the caste system had excluded the masses from higher knowledge and spiritual redemption, but he broke through these social barriers and invited and included everyone. During these Maha-Mantra Kirtans, Mahaprabhu experienced Radha's love for Krishna. He oftentimes swooned in ecstatic trances. Tears poured from his eyes and goosebumps spread all over his body. The natural golden hue of his skin would change. Sometimes he would be stunned or lose consciousness. And it took significant effort on the part of his disciples and followers to bring him back from these ecstatic states. And these remarkable bodily transformations were not rare events, but daily occurrences. When we look at the documented accounts of Sri Chaitanya's life and ecstasies, we learn that most were written during his presence, and others were written almost immediately after his departure, not decades or centuries later. And his numerous biographers were the elite intellectuals, literateurs, ministers and nobles of his time, then we can take their accounts seriously. Christian theologian John Moffat writes in Journey to Gorakhpur, of all saints in recorded history, east or west, Sri Chaitanya seems to me the supreme example of a soul carried on a tide of ecstatic love of God. His life in the holy town of Puri is a story of a man in a state of almost continuous spiritual intoxication, illuminating discourses, deep contemplation, moods of loving communion with God were daily occurrences. And scholar of Indian history and culture, Klaus Klostermaier writes that of all the traditions in India, perhaps the most subtle and detailed system of gradual ascent to God by means of love has been developed in the Chaitanya school of Vaishnavas, or Bhakti. Although Sri Chaitanya's ecstasies were esoteric, his formula for living a spiritual life is practical, straightforward, and accessible. Whenever he returned from his many spiritual trances, Sri Chaitanya spoke of an ineffable realm where the chanter is ultimately taken. That realm of divine love is available to every person, whatever their position, at any time, without cost, and without ritual, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha-Mantra in a mood of humility. We can cross the ocean of nescience and reach the shore of deathless existence, Chaitanya explained, by the simple means of chanting the Maha-Mantra. And anyone can chant. My spiritual master would say, what's the difficulty? Even a child can chant. When we chant the holy names with a sincere cry of the heart, the Absolute makes himself ours. Sri Chaitanya says this is the highest aim of life, and in achieving this goal, one's eternal place in the homeland of the heart is secured. Mahaprabhu orients us to the self, prompts us to use everything we have as an offering to the Supreme, and guides us to chant the divine names and drink the nectar, wisdom of the poetic Bhagavat Purana. These are the core of bhakti practices. But in an upcoming episode, I'm going to be going into more details at that time. Chaitanya's love of the Absolute was like a young girl's maddened infatuation for her young lover. Isn't this something you can relate to? The passion of young lovers who are blind to everything but the love they share? Everything, a flower, a garden, the sound of a musician's flute, a sand dune, a forest path, a river, a bird singing, the smell of a breeze moving over fragrant trees, they all reminded Sri Chaitanya of Krishna and his Leela, or divine play. And these remembrances brought on immediate, profound states of love. For the devoted, the entire creation is an impetus for diving into this wise, pure love. Through the Prema Kirtan of Sri Chaitanya, we're offered an easy method to experience Radha's love for Krishna, a love that captured the Supreme's heart and endears us to him. The mood of the mantra is a plea, which we can remember when we chant. We can think, "Oh Radha, oh Krishna, please accept me. Please engage me in your service. Let love for you blossom in my heart. Please give me the divine eyes to see the way to you." The Maha-Mantra purifies everyone who hears it or chants it. It's easy to learn, easy to remember, and easy to chant. Anyone, anywhere, at any time, and without cost can chant it. Though it's the most potent of all sacred mantras and the most accessible form of meditation in all the yoga systems, its reach is very high. Kirtan of the name delivers us from the limitations of mind and intellect, which are vehicles incapable of taking us beyond the realm that created them to the sacred home of our true self. By chanting the Maha-Mantra, we can know what's beyond thought, beyond matter. Let's explore the confidential reasons why Sri Chaitanya descended. Krishna had taught Bhakti Yoga in Bhagavad Gita and explained that Bhakti was the preferred yoga practice because of its power and ease of practice. But in the Gita, we only find general guidelines for living the life of Bhakti. Now, feeling great compassion for the suffering of conditioned souls, Krishna wanted to teach the path of Bhakti more explicitly. To accomplish this, he came to this world again as Sri Chaitanya. He took the role of his own devotee to show the easy, ideal path of how to practice Bhakti. As we heard in the episode about Sri Radha, Krishna had seen that she was experiencing more ecstasy than he did in their loving exchanges. This astonishes him and captivates his attention. So he decided he wanted to taste the sweetness and extent of Radha's love for him. Knowing that Radha is the best devotee, Krishna wisely reasoned that to experience her love, he needed to take the position of his own devotee. So to relish the effects she experiences in her selfless, pristine love for him, and at the same time show the world her way, he comes as Sri Chaitanya. I just want to pause for a second here and underscore a point. Think about this, please. Though the path of bhakti is selfless surrender and service in unmotivated, unconditional love, which can sound a bit intimidating for some of us, the result is astonishing. By placing our trust and love in the personal absolute, we experience more happiness than he does. He, joy personified, reciprocates our love and infuses us, small units of consciousness, with unlimited bliss. So we're to give everything, and we receive much more in return. B.R. Sridhardev Goswami, a bhakti saint and guru, gave expression to this principle. He said, at first we think all sacrifice, no gain. Then we come to realize, no sacrifice, all gain. Do you find it enticing to think that we're eligible for such a high standard of happiness? Can you imagine this? What does it mean for you? Tell me in the comments below. If we appreciate what is being offered to us through bhakti, we'll be drawn to a happy life of spiritual practice and transformation. Chaitanya's life and teachings beckon us into eternity. They are Radha's form in this world. Goddess Radha herself chants the names of her beloved, thereby showing love's natural flow to express itself by calling out to the beloved, to think of the beloved, to devote time to the beloved. Her way is demonstrated by Sri Chaitanya, who made it easy to understand the practical way of bhakti. Thanks for joining me in this episode of Exploring Bhakti. If Sri Chaitanya's story inspired you or sparked a new question, I'd love to hear from you. Please drop me a comment below. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the Bhakti movement, which was India's spiritual renaissance. Until then, chant and be happy. Swasti astu vishvasya. May there be good fortune throughout the universe, and for you